Welcome back to GMP Scenario, presented by PharmaContentLabs.com.
You know, in any high-stakes regulated industry, there's a golden rule. You get approval before you make a change. So today, we're going to dive into a real cautionary tale, a classic story of what happens when that rule gets broken and when good intentions end up creating a total compliance nightmare.
You can almost hear the pressure in this quote, can't you? We had to act fast. You can just feel that urgency. Production deadlines are knocking at the door, the official approval process feels like it's stuck in mud, and taking that shortcut, oh, it's so tempting. But it's also the very first step toward completely losing control.
And this, right here, is the core of the whole problem. What really happens when a team decides to jump the gun? Look, this isn't just about shuffling some paperwork around later. It's a fundamental break from good manufacturing practice, or GMP, which is the absolute bedrock of quality control.
Okay, so let's trace this whole thing back to the beginning. We're going to start at the exact moment of discovery, that gut punch feeling when someone in quality assurance realizes the process happening out on the floor does not match the process that's on paper.
You know, it almost always starts with something that seems completely routine. A formal change request just lands in the QA inbox. And on the surface, hey, it looks like business as usual, right? Just another step in managing the quality system. Nothing to see here.
But then you get that moment of disconnect. Maybe a QA person is walking the floor, or someone's reviewing batch records, and they spot it. A mismatch. The reality they're seeing with their own eyes doesn't line up with the official documents. The change request is just sitting there in the inbox, but the change itself? It's already live.
And this is the exact point where a small problem blows up into a full-blown crisis. See, this isn't some tiny tweak you can just undo. The new settings are fully baked in, and, critically, the old validated settings have been completely written over. They're gone. There is no undo button here. So you might be thinking, okay, but is it really that big of a deal? Well, let's talk about how regulators see this. It is absolutely crucial to understand that in the language of GMP, this is not just a little slip-up. It's classified as a serious deviation. This slide just lays it out so perfectly, doesn't it? The whole principle of change control is built on one unbreakable sequence. First you approve, then you implement. End of story. The second you flip that order, the entire system of governance is broken, even if you fully intended to get approval later.
So let's be crystal clear about this. In GMP terms, this is officially defined as a deviation, and it signals something called a loss of governance, which is a fancy way of saying your quality system, the very thing meant to control the process, has failed. For any auditor, that is a massive red flag.
And you've got to understand the impact of one unapproved change is never, ever contained. It's like dropping a stone in a pod. It creates these ripples that just keep spreading out, affecting the product, the processes, and ultimately, the people involved.
And you can really see how this one action causes this whole cascade of failures. So first off, the product itself is at risk. Its quality, its safety, it's all in question now. Then, all that painstaking work you did to validate the equipment and the process, poof, it's instantly invalidated. And you can bet that any inspector is going to see this as a critical failure of your entire quality system. But maybe the worst part? It points to a much deeper cultural problem, that your quality unit is being seen as a roadblock to be gotten around, not a partner.
Okay, so the damage is done. The wheels have come off. How do you fix it? The key here is to stop the bleeding and follow a super rigorous documented recovery plan. Because panicking, that is not a strategy.
Getting back in control requires a precise, documented playbook. First, stop. Just halt production immediately if you don't know the risk. Second, document everything. I mean every single detail of what changed and when. Third, assess the risk. Look back and figure out what the heck could have gone wrong. Fourth, define your actions. What are you going to do with the affected products? Do you need to revalidate? And finally, the most critical step of all, implement a CAPA, a corrective and preventative action. This is your formal plan to fix the root cause and make sure this can never, ever happen again.
You know the saying in this industry, right? If it isn't documented, it didn't happen. And that is never more true than right here. You need a complete package for the auditors, a file that proves you found the failure, you understood its impact, and you took decisive action. This documentation is your proof that you've regained control of your process.
All right, now we get to what is maybe the most important takeaway of all. In that moment of panic, when everyone is scrambling to fix the problem, there is one huge temptation, one common wrong move that can turn a really serious problem into an absolute catastrophe. Because when that pressure is on and people finally realize there's this big procedural gap, they sometimes try to fix the paperwork to match what happened in reality. And that, well, that is a fatal error.
Never, and I mean never, under any circumstances, should you backdate an approval signature to make it look like the change was approved on time. This instantly escalates the issue from a process failure, which is bad, to a data integrity breach, which is infinitely worse. It can be a career-ending move. And make no mistake about it, inspectors are like bloodhounds for this exact thing. Timestamps, electronic logs, signatures, that is the hard evidence they use to verify that your system is actually under control. The moment you falsify that data, you're not just correcting a mistake anymore. You are actively committing an act of deception, and that shatters all of your credibility. Ultimately, a situation like this isn't just about one mistake on one process. It's a symptom of a much deeper cultural issue. And that leaves us with a really critical question. One I want you to consider for your own organization: is your quality team an empowered, respected partner? Or are they seen as just another hurdle to be bypassed when the pressure is on? The answer to that question really determines whether this cautionary tale is just a story or if it's your future.
Thank you for watching. If this helped, like and subscribe. More GMP scenarios coming.